junction قبل شرحنا synapse. So as we said, synapse happens when we have a nerve supplying another nerve. Okay, هذا synapse. But the neuromuscular junction is actually when a nerve is supplying a muscle. So when the neuromuscular junction is we have a nerve, this is the axon, and it supplies this muscle fiber. So the muscle fiber is like one cell of the whole muscle. It's a muscle fiber. One fiber is contracted together. It's like one cell. Like, so first of all, the long fibers of skeletal muscle fibers. The one cell of a muscle is one fiber. And nerves, which is a group of axons bundled together coming from interior part of the spinal cord. A motor nerve, it's gonna supply the muscle fiber. One nerve can supply more than one, like 2 to 3 or number of muscle fibers. But if there was one nerve fiber supplying all the muscles, this is, as we call it, a motor unit. Motor unit, وحدة متماسكة. One fiber, one nerve is supplying a number of muscles. This is a motor unit. Okay, now the neuromuscular junction is, of course, one of the chemical synapses, the neuromuscular junction. So it's the place where the brain gives an order to the muscle to contract. شلون المخ يتواصل مع العضلات إنه والله تحرك يلا إنه عندنا neuromuscular junction where it gives this order and the muscle will try to contract. We'll see how that happens exactly. Neuromuscular junction is that place between the nerve and the muscle, between the motor neuron and the skeletal muscle. So the fiber is called the neuromuscular junction. Sorry. Okay, so what's called the neuromuscular junction? So it's the neuromuscular junction. It's the synapse between the motor neuron and the skeletal muscle fiber. It's the neuromuscular junction. هو المكان اللي بين العضلة والنيرف. neuromuscular junction. عندنا هنا شيئين مهمين اللي هو الموتور neuron, which is the nerve that innervates the muscle fiber, and the motor unit, which is a single motor neuron, and the muscle fibers it's innervate وحدة متماسكة. They get contracted together when the nerve is so as I was saying, in a neuromuscular junction هو المكان اللي يكون فيه synapse where the nerve transmit the pulse, الرسالة من المخ إلى العضلة, nerve fiber into the muscle fiber. So second thing, physiologic anatomy of the neuromuscular junction. So now this is an axon, this is the nerve, which is myelinated actually, and it's a motor nerve. This is the axon terminal. Excuse me for the bad drawing. This is the axon terminal. It's going to branch out. Each axon terminal, each branch, is going to have a neuromuscular junction. So هنا عندي neuromuscular junction where the axon terminal is there on the muscle. One neuromuscular junction. Here I have another neuromuscular junction, another neuromuscular junction, and another neuromuscular junction. So axon approaches the muscle, divides into many terminal branches, and the myelin sheath is lost at the end. هنا ما راح يكون في myelin sheath, but the axon, of course, there is a myelin sheath. So these axon terminal form special junction, the neuromuscular junction, with one muscle fiber. هذا قاعد يغذي one muscle fiber. كذا هذه قاعد تغذي هذه المسل fiber, هذه قاعد تغذي هذه, وهذه قاعد تغذي هذه. So it just goes on in a really accurate way. Of course هنا قلنا هذا anterior horn هو اللي يطلع لي الموتور نيورون من الانتيريور, وراح يروح عند muscle. Each nerve each terminal is gonna innervate one muscle fiber. But of course, one nerve could innervate more than one muscle fiber, and this is called the motor unit, where one muscle is innervating, like here in this case, 4 muscles. One nerve innervating 4 muscles. It's a motor unit. This is the neuromuscular junction. This is another one. This is another one. This is another one. طيب الحين نشوف neuromuscular junction enlarged. So zoomed in. هنا عندي axon terminal. The axon terminal is enlarged. يعني هذا الأكسن أول ما يوصل عند المصل يبدأ يصير كأنه زر, as a button. It's like a knob like. زي هنا هذا المصل وهذا الأكسن وصل عندي الأكسن terminal صار enlarged a little bit like a button. The terminal button which fits into a shallow depression underlying the muscle fiber. So هذا هو المصل. This is the muscle. It's a depression, يعني منخفض شوي لما يجي عندي ال axon terminal. So شوفوا الأكسن هنا عندي مايلين شيث عادي, لما يجي يتفرع ويعطيني axon terminal يختفي شوي المايلين شيث. So when the action potential is transmitted into the axon terminal, أول ما يوصل الأكشن potential وش يصير؟ These calcium channels opens and the calcium goes in. It's really similar to the synapse we took before, but in this case, the postsynaptic is not a nerve; it's actually a muscle. And another difference is when we have an action potential coming, the action potential is going to open the calcium channels. The calcium channels are going in, making these vesicles containing the acetylcholine to be released. تطلع الأسيتالكولين. acetylcholine تروح عند الأسيتالكولين receptors. طبعا هنا مهم مرة أننا نعرف أن النيورو ترانسميتر بهذه الحالة حقت muscle innervation لازم تكون acetylcholine. So when acetylcholine goes to the acetylcholine receptor, acetylcholine gated receptor channel, إيش راح يصير؟ It's going to actually have a graded potential. This graded potential, طيب قبل ما أتكلم عن graded potential اللي راح يكون هنا, أبيكم تركزون إن النيوروترانسميتر أول شيء acetylcholine. Second thing is acetylcholine receptors are basically 2 types, نوعين. أبيكم تركزون هنا قلنا هذا هو الأكسن, هنا الأكسن terminal, it's a knob like, وهنا عندي اللي هو neuromuscular junction اللي بالأورنج, هذا المصل في depression. حلو. الحين acetylcholine receptor in our bodies, they have 2 types of receptors: the nicotinic receptors, nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, and the muscarinic acetylcholine receptors. In the case of innervation of muscles, the neuromuscular junction, we always have nicotinic only in the muscles, the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. It's very similar to the synapse, but the difference is that first in the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor bus, the second thing is this graded potential, the acetylcholine is going to initiate this graded potential by opening sodium and potassium channels. بس احنا نعرف ان الصوديوم channels اسرع من البوتاسيوم channels. الصوديوم channels راح تفتح وتدخل عندي البوزيتيف inside the muscles more than the potassium. Potassium inward is not that fast, so the sodium is going inside, Na is going inside, it's going inward, causing the muscle to be depolarized. When the muscle is depolarized, الحين شوف طبعا ما راح يكون عندي action potential, راح يكون graded potential. This graded potential is gonna be called اللي هو, خلنا نمشي خطوة خطوة. أول شيء اللي أنا تكلمت عنه الحين إنه لما يجيني action potential, حلو, راح يفتح الكالسيوم channels, الكالسيوم يدخل, الفاسيكلز حق اللي تحتوي على acetylcholine is gonna be released into the neuromuscular junction. Second, these acetylcholine is going to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. حلو, نشوف الكلام المكتوب. الأكشن potentials arriving at the presynaptic terminal. هذا هو presynaptic terminal. Cause voltage gated calcium channels to open. Okay, ممتاز. وش يصير هنا؟ calcium uptake يبدأ يدخل in the terminal causing release of acetylcholine. حلو. بعدين وش يصير؟ acetylcholine يبدأ يمشي بالنيوروماسكولار جانكشن إلين يوصل اللي هو الموتور اند بليت. هنا نسميه موتور اند بليت. ممتاز، هذا نسميه موتور اند بليت. هنا نسميه موتور اند بليت. طيب